Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Kenyan elections coming up in 2027. But we're going to do it with a bit of a twist.
Ooh.
A twist. Yeah. You know, we always like to do things a little bit differently here on the deep dive.
I like it.
So we're going to be looking at Kenya through the lens of Botswana.
Botswana.
Yeah, specifically Botswana's recent political upset. So, yeah, some of you might be thinking, Kenya, Botswana,
Yeah.
what's the connection?
Yeah, thousands of miles apart.
Exactly. That's what we thought, too. But when we started digging into the research, some really interesting parallels emerged.
I've seen this research. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and so we're going to kind of unpack that for you today
Yeah.
and see if we can glean any insights into what might be in store for Kenya in 2027.
Sounds good.
So first off, just to kind of set the stage, both Kenya and Botswana were former British colonies. They're
Yeah.
roughly the same size population-wise.
Okay.
And they both experienced this really interesting pattern of presidential successions, where you have these powerful families, these dynasties,
Dynasties.
that hold sway for decades. And then you have these so-called hustler candidates who emerge and challenge the status quo.
Yeah, it's a classic tale of the outsider versus the establishment.
Right. And we see this playing out in both countries. You've got current Kenyan President William Ruto and former Botswana President Eric Masisi.
Okay.
Both of them came from relatively humble backgrounds.
Underdogs.
Yeah. And they position themselves as these outsiders fighting against the entrenched political elite.
So they really tapped into that idea of being hustlers.
Exactly. They kind of embodied that struggle of the everyday person trying to make it in a system that's often stacked against them.
Right. So the question is, can they maintain that image once they're in power?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Because once you're in that position, you have to make compromises. You have to make deals.
And those deals don't always benefit the everyday people that you claim to represent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the Botswana example becomes so relevant.
Tell me more.
Well, during his time in office, Masisi faced growing discontent.
Discontent.
Yeah, the economy was struggling. Unemployment was high.
And our research actually highlights how some of his policies ended up hurting the very people he claimed to represent.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, he made all these promises about diversifying the economy, attracting foreign investment, creating jobs.
Right. Classic campaign promises.
Exactly. But for many Botswanans, those promises didn't really translate into tangible improvements in their lives.
So it was a case of expectations not meeting reality.
Right. And when people start to feel like they've been let down, they start looking for alternatives.
Makes sense.
So let's bring this back to Kenya.
Okay.
Ruto also campaigned on this hustler platform,
Right.
promising to uplift the common man.
Yeah.
But he's also facing some serious challenges.
Such as?
A struggling economy, accusations of corruption.
Ooh, corruption. That's never good.
Yeah, and there are some specific incidents that are raising red flags. For example, the controversial Adani deals.
Adani deals. Now, those are interesting.
Yeah, maybe we should unpack that a little bit for our listeners who might not be familiar with the details.
Sure.
So essentially, the Adani Group, it's this massive Indian company.
Huge conglomerate.
Right. They've secured a number of contracts and investment deals in Kenya, spanning sectors like infrastructure and energy.
Big projects.
Yeah, but there have been allegations of irregularities in the bidding process.
So maybe not everything is above board.
And there are concerns about the potential environmental and social impact of these projects.
So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Right. And it's feeding into this perception that Ruto might be prioritizing the interests of big business over the needs of ordinary Kenyans.
Yeah, optics are important in politics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's further fueled by the fact that some of these deals were made without much public scrutiny or debate.
So a lack of transparency.
Exactly. And that creates a sense of unease and distrust, which, as we know, is never good for a leader trying to maintain popular support.
Right, it erodes their credibility.
And remember, this was a big part of Masisi's downfall in Botswana.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, the perception that he was more interested in enriching himself and his cronies than serving the people ultimately led to his defeat in the 2024 election.
Wow, so corruption, or even the perception of corruption, can be incredibly damaging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It undermines public trust. It creates cynicism. And it makes it much harder for leaders to implement their agendas, even if those agendas are well-intentioned.
So this is where the parallels between Botswana and Kenya become really stark.
Right, because if Ruto isn't careful, he could end up making the same mistakes as Masisi and facing a similar backlash from voters.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah, and it's not just about individual leaders, it's about the systems they operate within. Both Kenya and Botswana have these entrenched political dynasties that wield enormous influence.
Right. In Kenya, you have the Kenyatta family, and in Botswana, the Kama family.
Exactly. And both Ruto and Masisi came to power by challenging these dynasties. But that victory came at a cost.
A cost.
By going after these powerful families, they may have inadvertently alienated key voting blocs and created divisions within their own parties. And that's something we'll explore in more depth in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait. But before we move on, if you're finding this deep dive insightful, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to this channel.
Yeah, and if you're catching us on Facebook or TikTok, be sure to search for FMKE News on YouTube for a whole world of content related to politics, sports, and scientific research. We appreciate your being a part of our community.
We really do. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so going after these families, it can have some unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, like in Botswana, when Masisi tried to sideline former President Ian Khama.
A member of that powerful Kama family.
Exactly. It really backfired.
Yeah, he alienated a whole voting bloc, the Bamangwato tribe.
Who had historically supported the ruling party.
Right. It's a reminder that even in modern democracies, those traditional allegiances, they still hold sway.
Yeah, and tribal politics are a powerful force.
Oh, absolutely. Something Ruto needs to be very mindful of in Kenya.
Definitely where ethnic and regional divisions can be so easily exploited.
Right. So even if he remains personally popular, his actions could damage his party standing.
And create openings for his rivals.
Exactly. And speaking of rivals, let's not forget the unique way elections work in Botswana.
Right. It's not a direct presidential vote like in Kenya.
Nope. Voters choose parties, not individuals.
So even if Ruto remains popular, his party could still suffer.
If there's infighting or if his actions alienate key groups.
Like what happened to Masisi's party, the BDP.
Yeah, they lost badly in 2024.
A crushing defeat.
Some analysts say it was because of the divisions Masisi created.
It's a reminder that even a seemingly strong incumbent can lose.
If the political winds shift.
And let's not forget the role of the media in all of this.
Oh yeah, both traditional and social media.
It has immense power to shape public opinion.
Amplify certain narratives.
And potentially influence the outcome of an election.
Absolutely. A single controversial statement can go viral.
And reach millions of voters instantly.
It's a whole different political landscape than even a decade ago.
So it's fascinating to see these parallels between Kenya and Botswana.
Yeah, because while they're distinct countries,
with their own unique histories,
there are these underlying political dynamics
that seem to transcend borders.
It's like a political laboratory.
We can look at what happened in Botswana.
Analyze the factors that led to Masisi's defeat.
And apply those lessons to Kenya.
As we head towards 2027.
Precisely by doing so, we gain a deeper understanding of these forces at play.
The potential pitfalls leaders face.
And the unpredictable nature of politics itself. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The rise of these hustler candidates.
The fall of powerful incumbents.
The complexities of tribal politics.
The dangers of corruption.
The interplay of allegiances and interests.
And the crucial role of media.
But even with all this analysis,
predicting the future of Kenyan politics is still a guessing game.
Too many variables at play.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
And that's where you, our listener, come in.
Because ultimately, it's the Kenyan people who will decide their fate.
In 2027.
And their choices will be based on a multitude of factors.
So we want to leave you with this thought.
Do you see Kenya following a similar path to Botswana?
Or are there other factors at play?
What lessons can be learned from both these countries?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Leave a comment below.
And hey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.
Share it with your friends and family.
And if you're watching us on Facebook or TikTok,
be sure to search for FMKE News on YouTube.
We've got a whole library of fascinating content waiting for you.
We're constantly adding new videos, so subscribe and hit that notification bell.
We really appreciate your support.
And for being such loyal followers.
It means the world to us. Now let's get back to our deep dive into Kenya and Botswana. Okay, so we've seen how Masisi's missteps in Botswana could be a cautionary tale for Ruto. But, we have to be fair here. Ruto is a pretty savvy politician.
Oh, yeah, he is. He didn't get to where he is by accident.
Right, he's got some serious political skills.
And let's not forget the power of that hustler narrative.
Yeah, it really resonated with voters.
People who felt like the traditional elite were out of touch.
Exactly. But can he hold on to that image?
As he makes decisions that, involve compromise.
And that might not always benefit those everyday people.
It's a tough balancing act.
Yeah, and it's even more complex now that he's the one in charge.
Right, he's not the outsider anymore.
He's part of the system.
And we saw in Botswana how the pressures of power can lead to those missteps.
Yeah, and one of those potential missteps is what happened with his deputy.
The impeachment.
Yeah, it was a bold move.
Some people saw it as necessary to maintain control.
Others saw it as a power grab.
Like he was becoming the very thing he opposed.
And it's those perceptions that matter.
If voters start to see him as more interested in power than in serving the people,
It could damage that trust he built.
that was so crucial to his victory.
And then there's the issue of the Adani deals.
Right. Those agreements have fueled those concerns about corruption.
And a lack of transparency.
It's a narrative that's hard to shake.
Especially when people are struggling economically.
And remember, in Botswana, those allegations of corruption played a big role in Masisi's downfall.
Voters just lost faith in him.
They didn't believe he was leading ethically.
So as we look ahead to 2027 in Kenya, the Botswana example offers some valuable insights.
It highlights the challenges of governing,
The importance of navigating those complex ethnic and regional politics.
the dangers of alienating those key constituencies.
And maybe, most importantly, it underscores the need for transparency
Accountability.
and a genuine commitment to serving the people.
Because ultimately the fate of both Kenya and Botswana,
It rests in the hands of their citizens,
it's a reminder that democracy is a journey,
one that requires vigilance
engagement.
and holding our leaders accountable. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have from hustler candidates to powerful incumbents.
From tribal politics to corruption.
We've explored the world of African politics,
And we hope this has given you a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities.
facing both Kenya and Botswana.
If you found this deep dive insightful, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel for more.
And if you're joining us from Facebook or TikTok, be sure to search for FMKE News on YouTube.
We've got a wealth of content there on all sorts of topics.
We're constantly adding new videos, so subscribe and hit that notification bell.
We really appreciate your being a part of our community.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring.